Ladies and gentlemen, I know the Gears of War story is a rumor. I'm quite aware. In fact, I made a tongue-in-cheek assessment of Ecstasis' comment, and I said he's starting to feel himself because his Forza Horizon 1 became something of a reality. However, the force of the argument still remains. And to those who continue to somewhat maybe try to chalk it up to somewhere in your brain, like saying that worked well for Sega or some snide remark, you have to realize that Sega went out of business in 2001 in terms of the console side. They're still doing games, right? This is what is being said anyways by Wikipedia, right? They got acquired, sorry. I don't know when their console failed, but they got acquired around 2001. Just bear with me. Let me get to my point. EA gets 71% of its revenue from live service games. In 01, around this time, there had not been this surge of live service games in the market, whereby you see when PlayStation is crossing from one generation to another generation, there were only about 6 out of top 10 live service games, and now that it's crossed into the generation, it's 10 out of 10 in terms of monthly active users in the month of December. When you take this into account, you realize that what Xbox is doing and has done so far in its live service department is that it has shipped almost all of them to PlayStation, PC, and Xbox, thereby guaranteeing them a user base. Pretty much, the dwindling of the user base that happens with these console-exclusive live service games is no longer a reality for Xbox, and it's trying to do it with old IP, not even new IP. So the investment that has already been recouped for this particular game, Forza Horizon 5, in developing it on the Xbox and for the PC and selling it, is no longer necessarily needed, hence a sum to port the game and then go out there and realize users and thereby keep an ongoing ecosystem with its own consoles and its own games. So you may say a PlayStation is a separate console. However, a PlayStation user is an Xbox platform user. In fact, if you want any more proof and you're probably maybe confused or misconstrued, well, look at Sea of Thieves. It's been sitting on PlayStation for a while now. It sold over 1 million copies, which is a lot. Let me give you a perspective. Mortal Kombat 1, which I just dropped just now. I finally took out one of my nemesis. Denfu, shout out to you, bro. You and your reign. That game sold about 4 million or so units. An entirely brand new game. Xbox repackages Sea of Thieves 2024 edition and puts it on PlayStation after so many years, and it does a quarter of the sales of a brand new game after that brand new game had been sitting for about 4 years or so. Well, that's all right. I take that back. For about 2-ish years, over a year. It's not up to 2 years yet. So if they're doing that strategy and with Sea of Thieves it works and it brings in 1 million users and has now created an active user base on the platform, they've done it with Grounded. Now it's time for them to expand even more. All this while, they're earning microtransaction money. They also have some other heavy hitters, by the way, like Elder Scrolls Online. They have some really solid titles out there. Then this is not even talking Call of Duty money. This is talking, icing on the cake. And then what is PlayStation able to do in this particular paradigm? They're basically trying to hamstring themselves, putting their games on PlayStation and PC. Dude, a live service ecosystem could benefit from even 300,000 users if they're active. And if Xbox does not, basically tell themselves, oh, well, let's go ahead and find active players, then they're going to lose all that work, all that effort that their teams have already put in. It's going to be lost. But in this case, it's not just easily lost. So for you to basically try to categorize this as the same as Sega just basically means that you're not paying attention. Because again, some of you are thinking that Xbox games have been comprised of these single player games. No, they were mostly live service games. Y'all used to say it. Xbox has no games. Phil Spencer said we wish we had something like the Uncharted games, right? But they don't have anything of such, or they didn't at some point. It was a lot of these live service games, Age of Empires, these, tiny little community-based games that they fostered a lot of. Halo and all that stuff. So now those games, they have a bulk of them. And when I say a bulk, they've already now, based on the Forza Horizon news, they're looking at 9. PlayStation is trying to come into the game and they're at 1 with Helldivers 2, and that one is already hamstrung by not being on the Xbox ecosystem where it could have pretty much netted PlayStation money. So people are going to look at PlayStation and say, why would I go play Helldivers 2 when I can basically play Halo, another game that is on my platform? And Xbox has always kind of held it down when it came to, according to the community, Xbox has always held it down when it came to live service games. So if you're not looking at this particular paradigm, then you're missing what exactly is going on in the gaming industry. I mean, even Matt Piscatella himself is trying to clue y'all in and also yell it on the mountaintops at the same time. The man cannot say it long enough. Why would he put this data set out there? This is not something he would even bother. He just put out 4 years difference. And then he said, the more things change. Ain't nothing changing out here, Matt. Nothing is really changing. And he's basically saying, in fact, the change is now leaning more towards these live service games. This is why PlayStation has moved its budget allocation to 60% live service games and 40%, or at least it's going to 60-40. It was 55-45 or something like that, to 40% single player games, because they need a game like that to hit. With the Naughty Dog's Faction game, their big mistake was trying to make Naughty Dog go ahead and do a live service game. What you do with live service games, and this is from learning from how Ubisoft has managed the division, or in a sense mismanaged the division, depending on how you look at it, is they use a lot of supporting studios to take content and make it and get it out there so that their main teams can start making continuity or other games. That's why Ubisoft Massive could do the Division 2, support it, make Star Wars, make Avatar. Even though those two bets were basically off, they should have stuck with the Division or stuck with games that are their own IPs. But they used Ubisoft Anarchy, their studio in France. They used Ubisoft, what's the name? There's another one out there in Europe. They use some in the UK. They use some in Eastern Europe. And these, studios are basically managing the content for the game. So those of you who may be celebrating this, just know that you're celebrating the demise, or you're celebrating the reduction in the chances of PlayStation being able to dominate in live service on its own platform. Do you understand me? Because the single player games are every 6 years. Within those 6 years, a lot of damage will be done. In fact, 2025, enough damage. If one more, Xbox needs to go for it. If they want to do it, they need to go for Gears. They need to go for Gears on PlayStation. If they really, really want to change things up, go for Gears on PlayStation with the older versions. Let E-Day sit there on Game Pass and let E-Day be there for Xbox with no promise of when it's going to show up. PlayStation players play enough of Gears, they look and say, what the heck? It's basically giving them a taste of what it is that they've never had before, if they've never had Gears before. That's the idea. Xbox is not fighting you with graphically looking 3D modeled-ish games. Xbox is fighting you with time suck. Games that are taking your players' attention. A whole different category of a conversation now within these games. Single player games are not even in the discussion anymore. They show up for a few minutes and then they're out. That's where Xbox is playing for. So this list you see on the right, Xbox wants to amplify their presence on that list, and they will do so on the PlayStation platform and try to repeat it, not just because they think they can, because they know they can. How do they know they can? Call of Duty and Minecraft have been sitting on that list for a very, very long time. You got to be able to see this stuff, bro. You got to be able to see it. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.